As an introverted perfectionist myself, who is solo learning multiple languages, I know better than anyone that it feels like we have to be fluent in order to be a confident speaker, right? But I'm here to argue in this video that it's actually the opposite. You can be so confident and you don't have to be fluent. If you've seen any of the videos where people are doing street interviews and they just randomly walk up to a person and then they use the basics, they are exuding confidence, but they're not necessarily having to speak about anything above a B1 at this point, right? So they are living proof that this can happen. And yes, it can happen for you. We're gonna talk about in this video how to actually be more confident when you are speaking as you are working your way up towards fluency. But as well, if you are interested in taking this even further, I'm opening the Speak Your Language with Confidence Challenge, which in 6 weeks will help you speak confidently with my coaching expertise right in your back pocket, walking you through the entire process. So if you're interested in that and need more support, do check out more details in the pinned comment below or in the description. So how do we start to speak more confidently, especially if fluency at this point feels further away from us? Let us debunk the myth right now that fluency means perfection. Being confident when you're speaking means perfection, okay? Those could not be further away from the truth. Expecting ourselves to not make mistakes is essentially what is holding back our speaking. We overthink what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to sound, if we have the right accent, if we are even going to be able to communicate. There's also a culture in certain language learning spaces that are bent on just criticizing other people and tearing them down, mentioning, hey, like, why are you claiming to be this and this when you made a mistake there, right? Or this is a fake polyglot, like, watch out for those. Simply just a lot of strangers on the internet looking around for people who don't appear to be speaking their languages as well as they claim. Even with all of that culture, all of that more negative energy, it's so hard to define what objectively fluency is. Now, we can all understand that if we don't really know a language or much of a language, we're not fluent yet. But there's a lot of leeway in how each of us can define fluency for ourselves. And knowing that fluency does not have one strict definition can be very, very freeing. Think about the word polyglot, for example, too. I've heard people defining polyglot for themselves as speaking 3 languages to a C1 level, or they speak, 6 languages, all similar to one another, but just at a conversational level. And then there are other people who just don't want to call themselves a polyglot at all, even though they speak multiple languages. Fluency for us can look differently according to our purposes, according to how we want to communicate with other people, according to our goals. So you can just as easily have fluency in a specific topic like travel. If you have the purpose of connecting with your spouse's relatives, then you can have fluency in talking with them. Fluency for travel. You can navigate in just all of the crazy situations you might find yourself in while on a trip or just abroad, right? Then that is a very specific purpose that you are looking to build your language up. But fluency does not have to mean just C2 all the time, speaking as fast as possible with the perfect accent with no errors. In fact, because language is inherently imperfect and humans are inherently imperfect, we cannot maintain that unfair high standard absolutely every single second of our lives and absolutely every single language learning season. I find when I coach language learners through a really big roadblock that has to do with them wanting to speak more confidently but not being able to get there themselves, I always invite them to think about how they are trying to fit into another person's definition of fluency. Honestly, your fluency is no one else's business except yours. Personally, fluency for me is simply the feeling of ease rather than thinking about if I would be able to pass, a C1 or C2 exam. How fast can I switch comfortably into my target language when I need it? And this feeling of ease is something that can be felt way before C1. Now, whether that definition of fluency really resonates with you or not, I want to give you permission that you can define fluency your own way. And modify it to your own purposes. Because again, if we keep on going off of other people's expectations of what fluency is, and we don't really check in with ourselves about what we want out of this whole building fluency process, then it's so easy to feel like once you hit that goal or you feel like you've achieved that expectation, then you feel like the goalpost keeps on moving and you have so much more to learn. So you don't really feel the victory of hitting another's expectation or goal if it's really not rooted in what you want and your truest desires. As well, if you're thinking about reaching fluency as knowing 5,000 words, right? Or judging it off of a certain numbers-based metric, right? I will be fluent once I know 5,000 words in Spanish. I will be fluent once I have put in 1,200 comprehensible input hours, whatever, right? I understand that different language programs are going to give you those kinds of metrics. They really offer us a feeling of hope when we are inside an inherently uncertain and vulnerable process like language learning. It can feel really reassuring, but it also throws us way off. If we take English for example, and we think about the word get actually has over 200 meanings in English. But if we were to use the logic of, I'm only fluent in my language if I only know, 5,000 English words, well, okay, does knowing 4,995 words still mean you're not fluent, right? Or does the speaker that knows all of the 200 meanings of the word to get in English, do they know more than the person that knows 20 words, right? So really think about the nuance and how this kind of mindset can also hold us back from wanting to speak confident. Again, we're looking for a guarantee here. And while I can't give you a 1,000% guarantee because I can't force you to study, right? As a language coach, I'm going to give you some tools that will help you know what you actually need in order to speak confidently right now where you are. One is define what fluency means for you. Is it a similar feeling that I define my fluency as, right? That certain kind of ease when I have to automatically switch. Is it based on numbers, right? And if so, really investigate if that kind of measurement of fluency is really yours, or if it's from a program or a YouTuber that you really liked that you found successful and you're hoping to set these same goals as they did in order to hopefully reproduce the same results, which, by the way, spoiler alert, it never works out that way, right? Copying others' routines to the T never works out for us because we are all human beings that are whole people behind our languages and need different ways of approaching language learning according to us, our schedule, our brains, our life. Really think about what specific level of fluency you want to work on, which in doing so allows us to have more confidence and feel more reassured within our own selves, right? Setting our own personalized goals that are measurable and we feel good about achieving. What kind of topics do you want to talk about? How do you want to live joyfully through your target language? What kind of people would you run into? And being able to structure what you learn based off what you personally want to do. And another thing I advise you to do for being able to speak more confidently is really think about, are you learning from a place of fear and fearing of failing, or are you approaching language learning from a place of inspiration and growth? Now, this is a very well studied phenomena between the fixed mindset and the growth mindset, specifically from Carol Dweck, who did a lot of research on this. But if we are constantly trying to, work on an aspect such as speaking from a place of fearing that we're going to lose or feeling that we're going to fail, then we're still not reaching our full potential that we're capable of. When you are really learning from a place of inspiration, abundance, that is really when you can start to see challenges of working on your speaking as a source of opportunity for growth instead of a situation where you get embarrassed and it makes you want to quit and you retreat after trying to speak, right? Mindset is such a crucial element and it is a skill that must be worked on just as much as writing skills or speaking better. Yes, you can speak confidently in less than 2 months. We work together again inside the Speak Your Language with Confidence Challenge So I advise you to check that out if you haven't already. Other than that, make sure to like and subscribe if you did find this video helpful. I love sharing more about the more emotional work that makes language learners successful, not only short term, not only to get fluent, but long term, and to really help them make learning sustainable and enjoyable for life. So thanks for watching, you guys. See you in another video soon.